All right, Dad. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. And I've been a little bit worried the past couple of days. Just going to bed last night, I was listening to Alexander Mercouris, and he was worried, and it made me worried.
Mhm.
Just kind of the state of things.
Yeah.
That we are really entering a new phase of escalation and danger. That right now, I've been hearing that basically Russia is basically in a diplomatic official stance is no longer a state of peace with
Mhm.
the United States. They are deeming that the U.S. we are at war more or less with the U.S. now. That's becoming clear, and that Russia might be making sort of lateral moves in terms of arming enemies of the United States, like Iran. We've already seen this agreement with North Korea. I think a lot of people are just kind of mulling around like, oh yeah, the U.S. just gets involved in conflicts and helps different countries out, and they don't really realize how much things are changing. Am
Right.
I overreacting, or should we be scared?
Uh, you should be scared. Yes.
Well,
There's-
you made me less scared because when
Yeah.
I
Okay.
heard about the
Well,
attackams
yeah.
thing on the beach,
Well,
you're
yeah,
like,
but
it's
things there have been developments since then that make that I think yeah, a cause of greater concern. Yeah. The Russian reaction, the official reaction was quite strong. I think it's fair to say, I mean, they could have kind of emphasized the ambiguous aspects of the attack. It could have said, well, the civilians weren't the intended target, because it's still, I haven't seen anything to really directly contradict it. The initial reports were that fifth ATACMS missile had been hit by an air defense missile, but not destroyed, and that it was diverted from its intended flight path. Now they could have gone with that story, but I don't know how certain that was, how true it was, but that was out there and it was put out there by the Russians themselves. It came from RT. They could have gone with the ambiguous aspect of the story and played things down a bit, but they decided to give a really a very explicit and threatening response. Um, and they don't seem to me to be leaving much wiggle room. What happened is the foreign ministry called in the U.S. ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, and kind of um, gave her what is called a demarche, which is a very severe warning and it's it's short of a declaration of war, but it's an indication when you do that. It's just like we regard these recent actions by your government to be very harmful, to threaten our relationship such as it is, and things are already so bad. That tells you that we are approaching an open state of war. But anyway, in this demarche, well, first of all, they said it was a targeted attack, right? So this was intentional. And then second, I think most importantly, is at the end they said retaliatory measures will follow. This is an official statement by the foreign ministry, right? So there just isn't, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of wiggle room here. They've committed themselves to some kind of retaliation. Now we don't know what it is, but they've laid it out. It seems at this point that they wouldn't have said it if they didn't intend to do something, and we don't know what it is. Yeah, there's a possibility that they can um, arm, for example, send arms, more sophisticated arms to Iran, who can distribute them to their various allies, such as the Houthis or something, who could do real damage. That's a possibility, but who knows? Or maybe they'll do something over the Black Sea. Um,
mm,
just can't be sure.
well, Russia seems to have taken the stance that this is the United States more than it is Ukraine, or just as much United States as Ukraine's
Right.
fault. So is this retaliatory strike, is it directed at Ukraine or is it directed more at the United States?
Well, it was again. I
It's
think
the
it would be
U.S.
directed at the
ambassador.
U.S. Right, right. They were talking to the U.S. ambassador. That's where that statement, retaliatory measures will follow. Now, it's possible that it'll be carried out within the territory of Ukraine, but maybe they'll strike U.S. targets. Um, We'll see. I have no idea what they're planning. I have,
You know,
but it does, yeah, you're right to be scared. That's what I would say. I mean, it's a scary, it's inevitable. The thing is, like, it wasn't just this one incident. Of course, there have been these changes, like the adjustments to policies to allow U.S. missiles to strike targets within pre-2014 Russia. And at first,
mm,
that was just outside the Kharkov region, but that lasted like 2 weeks, if even that. And then they said, well, actually, wherever it's necessary, like if the Russians are coming, preparing to attack from any place within 2014 Russia, the Ukrainians are free to use our weapons to attack them. So they're already expanding, that initial very limited escalation is, and maybe it's just like the Russians are using this to say, okay, enough is enough. We didn't want to escalate, but we're telling you this, you can't go down this path. There is going to be a response to this.
so, do you think American servicemen will die, get
It
killed
could
in
happen.
some,
I mean, it certainly could happen. I mean, in the end, um, really, um, the Americans only have themselves to blame. I mean, they decided to become, as the Russian Foreign Ministry said, a party to this conflict and to become
mm,
involved in attacks that were killing Russians.
right.
So, and again, if you ever stop and think, like, like we've done and other people have done, you stop and try to look at it from the Russian point of view, and if um,
This happened to us.
yeah, if this happened to us, again, how would we respond? If this was a beach in Miami, how would we respond? Even if it wasn't intentional, like we're actually because they were just aiming at an air base not too far from Miami or something. Nobody would care about that. People would be shrieking bloody murder and demanding vengeance, right? And there's
Mm,
no question about it. And so it's, I think the Russians feel like they just have to respond at this point.
right. If I was a service member in any of these bases in the Middle East or throughout the region, I would be terrified. I mean, because when we're talking about, Russia arming the enemies of the United States, then, we're talking about, where they said like the Houthis throughout the, Iran, Hezbollah, these people out throughout the Middle East, and we got 800 military bases scattered all over the world. If they have Russian missile technology and weaponry, there's nothing that they're just sitting ducks out there.
Right.
And what
Right.
can
Well,
they do?
even with the missiles they have, they can do a lot of damage. Certainly the Iranians could do a great deal of damage with what they have, but the Russians can make sure that the damage is, all the more severe. And um, so, yeah, clearly the Americans are vulnerable in the Middle East. I think it's something that it's a reason that the Pentagon is one of the reasons, anyway, that the Pentagon has been very reluctant to engage Iran in a conflict because they understand
Hmm.
their vulnerability there.